Hello everybody, it's Frugal Streamer. I know there's a lot of new streamers out there. We're quarantined, or most people are anyway. There's social distancing, and there has been a huge increase in the amount of people who are wanting to learn how to live stream. I can tell because my channel views have doubled over the last 2 weeks. So I want to do a 2020 best stream settings video using OBS Studio and Streamlabs OBS, and I'm going to split this video into two parts. The first part is simply going to be me showing you my settings. You can stop the video, you can pause it, you can see what the settings are and set up your video there. This will appease the people who just want to know what the settings are and don't care to know why. Part two will be why I have these settings set the way I do, and I'll talk about what each thing does and how it affects your live stream quality. So let's go ahead and get into part one. But first, make sure you check out my socials. On Twitter, at Frugal_streamer, Twitch TV / the Frugal Streamer YT. And if you want to join the TFS community Discord, the link is in the channel description right above on my YouTube channel. So make sure you click that. Now, on to the video. Okay, so this video is going to assume that you have already installed OBS Studio, which I will be using for today's demonstration. Streamlabs OBS is basically the same settings. The UI is a little bit different, but the stream settings are all the same. So these should cross over very nicely. So I'm going to go ahead now and show you my different pages. You could pause, set up your stuff the way it's set, and then you'll be good to go. All right, so now this is going to be part two of the video, and I'm just going to go through the output settings, video settings, and some of the advanced settings, and discuss why I choose what I do for streaming, and how it will affect your quality of your stream, and why you should do some of the things that I do. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we need to look at our output settings here. So let's go and we'll open output, and under the streaming tab, we're under advanced. I recommend everybody using advanced. It's just, you're going to be able to tweak your PC the way you want it more, gives you more options to control things. So audio track 1, you have 6 audio tracks. Audio track 1 is the default track and is the one I recommend you use for streaming. And every audio source that you have will go to track 1. Okay. If you want to record then you can use track 2 through 6 for your dedicated multi-track audio feeds. If you want a separate track for audit for a game, a separate track for your mic, or a separate track for your communications like Discord or something, you can pick that audio source in Advanced Audio Properties and select those for recording. But for streaming, remember, they only all of them go to the same track regardless. So pick the track that you're going to use for that and leave the other ones for your dedicated recording. All right, so the question you're going to need to ask yourself is, what am I going to use here for encoding? Am I going to use X264, which is software encoding, or am I going to use my hardware encoding, which for NVIDIA is called NVENC? For AMD, I think it's either VCE or AMF now. So for X264, if it were me, I would default X264 if I was a single PC live streamer that had a PC with the latest and greatest Ryzen 7 processor, like a 3900X or the latest Threadripper, and or the latest Intel i7, i9, whatever they are, 9900X. Those PCs, you can throw the kitchen sink at that thing and they will handle everything you give it without an issue. That's what they're designed to do, because they're all tons of multi-cores, multi-threaded applications that can run games and run all this stuff and run these encoding things without any issues. So I would run X264 then, because you can run in medium settings and not have any issues. The other reason I would choose X264 is if I had a dedicated streaming PC that I could live stream at medium X264 settings without any issues, without skipping frames, without any render lag, without any encoding issues. If you can't do that, then you can run X264 in fast, or if you have the new Turing, you can run hardware encoding using NVENC, okay? And really, that's probably what I would recommend for most people, but there are people that can use X264, so we'll go through the settings for that now. Now here, I've got my output rescale to 1600 by 900. The only reason I do that is because I also want the option to be able to record in native resolution. So if you have whatever you record, it is slave to whatever you have in your video settings. Then you can stream and rescale your output to whatever you want to stream out. Now the key is if you rescale here, this is software encoding that does this, okay, that does the rescaling. If you're doing it in video, if you're downscaling in video, that is hardware encoding, so keep that in mind. Rate control. This is a no-brainer. CBR, constant bit rate. It'll try to maintain a bit rate within reason. It will vary a little bit, but it will try to maintain around 6,000 bit rate or whatever you have set here. In the case here, like I said, I have 6,000 bit rate. Now let's talk about bit rate. Bit rate is important because the higher the bit rate, the better quality overall your stream is going to look. You're going to have less pixelation if you're playing a first-person shooter where you have a lot of high movement. This is something that's going to help you out. You send as much bit rate as you can handle, keeping in mind that there are limitations depending on what stream service you use. For Twitch, for most people, it is 6,000. For some, they can stream at 8,000. But you need to think about two things. You need to think about what is my upload speed, measured upload speed, and what is the max bit rate that I can set for the stream service I want to use. Now, YouTube lets you send, I think, 12 or 16, and you have transcoding all the time. So you can send a really high bit rate. You can stream at 1440p, or I guess even 4K if you could support that and if your computer can handle it. But that is how you determine what your bit rate is. So here's the rule of thumb. Okay, the first thing you need to figure out, what is your measured upload speed? I like to use DSL reports for mine. You can use Ookla or whatever plugin you want to use. Measure your upload speed, then take 75% of your measured upload speed, and that will be the max bit rate you can set, period. Not including whatever stream service you're using. So the max bit rate, period, would be 75% of your upload The reason I do that is because that gives you some headroom in the event that somebody else is uploading video or using your network, and it just keeps you from having a choppy stream because of somebody else in your household. Then you need to take into account your stream service and figure out what their max bitrate is. I'll provide a link below for all of the service settings, the major ones: Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Mixer, and what their max bitrate is for that. Okay. I do not use a custom buffer size. If you leave this blank, your buffer size is the size of your bitrate. So it would be 6,000 in my case. If you are new, okay, and you are trying to get as many viewers as possible, I would recommend not using a 6,000 bit rate. Instead, I would use like 3,000 at a max 4,500, because you need people to be able to watch you without having any freezing in their video. And you have a lot of people on mobile that are watching on Wi-Fi that may not support a full 1080p stream or a 900p stream or whatever. So you need to lower your bit rate so that they can watch you and still have a smooth experience. The key is you want to have access to as many people as possible without them having any issues. So I would recommend that. Likewise, I would also recommend, if you're doing that, also to lower your output to 720p instead of 1080p or 900, because you're going to have a much better looking stream for them at a lower bit rate. Okay. Now, keyframe here, Twitch recommends 2. I think Mixer, I think most of them recommend 2. Facebook might be a little different. I can't remember off the top of my head. But leaving this in auto is not a good idea. So go ahead and set this to 2. You can leave this in auto if you're recording, but not for streaming. All right, CPU usage. Okay, what I would recommend you actually do, okay, if you want to really test it out, start out in medium and see what happens. For most people, you're probably going to have issues at medium. For me, I can't run medium. If I were to run medium, it would freeze my computer. And I have a Ryzen 7 1800X. I can run fast. It's about as good as I can get. But work yourself from medium and back up to this list to the point where you have a nice smooth stream. This has a great effect on how smooth your stream is going to be. So you want to make sure that you use the slowest that you can run. And of course, this is the fastest. And as you work down the list, it gets slower. So medium, fast is really the target that you really want to try to do. If you can't, then we need to look at maybe hardware encoding. All right, the next thing is profile, and I recommend either main or high. I would not use none or baseline. Main or high profile. It just it's a better quality setting. All right, tune. I always leave it none. I don't mess with this. It's just why, for streaming. And then here, I always set B frames to 2, or if you're using Mixer and you're using their FTL protocol, you want to set this as 0, okay? But typically 2 works fine. You could set this to 1 or 0. It doesn't matter, but 2 max, okay? No more than 2 for streaming. All right, and that is X264. Now let's go to NVENC. All right, same thing, track 1. I have this downscaled, rescaled to 900p. Rate control, again, CBR is what you want to use. Bit rate, for me, I'm going to set this to 6,000 because I am an affiliate and I get transcoding normally. Keyframe interval, again, you want to make this 2. Preset, I have a GTX 1080 Ti on my gaming PC. Now, I also, for my dedicated streaming PC, I have an old processor, CPU, but I brought a brand new Turing GTX 1660. So it has a new Turing encoding, new NVENC encoding. So for that guy, I would use max quality. Okay. It can handle it. Same thing for profile, set your profile to high. You have look ahead and psychovisual tuning. NVIDIA recommends you not use look ahead for streaming, only use psychovisual tuning. If you really want to learn about what they do, okay, you can float your cursor over the top and it'll give you a pop-up window that tells you exactly what each thing does. This is dynamic B-frames. You do not want that. That is something you want to do for recording, not for streaming. You need your B-frames to go no more than 2. This will send it up to 4. Okay. So stay away from that. Psychovisual tuning just gives you a better perceived visual quality setting, especially for high motion, graphics, FPS games, that sort of thing. So they do recommend you use that. GPU here, I only have one GPU, so I don't have any other to choose from. But you can choose if you have one GPU, that will be GPU 0. If you're running like an SLI config or something like that, you can use GPU 1. But I do not recommend you do that because, first of all, you have an encoder built on your video card. It's totally separate from your GPU rendering, so it's not going to affect your FPS in game. Okay, use your encoder. Okay, so you can actually lose performance by switching this and running. So just leave it at 0. All right, and then again, we talked about this. Max B frames is 2, and that is really it for NVIDIA settings. It's pretty simple, straightforward. If you do have issues and you're seeing some encoding issues, you might want to drop max quality down to quality, especially if you have an older NVENC card. All right, but most people with the latest 2 generations of NVENC should not have any issues with this. All right, so the next thing, we're going to go to video. All right, so we talked about video here, and again, I have this set as my output downscale resolution is the same as my canvas because I want to record at native resolution, okay? Now, if you are not recording and you're just streaming, then do not rescale output here, do it here. Here you can go and set your downscale resolution, whatever you want. You can type it into. You don't have to use one of the ones they have in the list. Okay. The good thing about the latest update of OBS is it gives you the aspect ratio of whatever you have in this box listed over here to the right, so you can ensure that they are exact, downscale multiples, which is nice. Now, downscale filter, if you decide to use this hardware downscaling, I recommend you either use bicubic or Landscope. Bicubic is a downscale filter. Landscope, although the scaling is that there's more samples, double the samples, Landscope is an upscaling filter. So some of us now are saying use bicubic instead, okay, for that because it's designed to downscale. But in honesty, I haven't seen much difference between the two in terms of quality. So it's your choice. Pick whichever one you want to use. Okay. Now, FPS here, I'm going to go with 60 because my computer can handle it and I can send enough bit rate that it looks pretty good on Twitch or on Mixer or wherever. But if you're a new streamer, again, this is something you need to think about because the more frame rates you use, the more bit rate it takes for it to look good. And if you're brand new, you don't get the transcoding quality settings in Twitch, then you need to lower, in my opinion, you need to lower your frame rate to 30. That way your stream will actually look better because there's not as much pixelation and it releases some of that stress on your CPU that you may be having to deal with. So definitely 30 if you're new. If you're affiliate status or if you just want to and you don't really care, I mean, you can use 60 if your PC can handle it. That's just something that you need to make a choice on yourself. Okay. Now, advanced. Let's talk about advanced. So, general here, I've got my process priority set to high. DX11 3D. That's really the only choice I have. Now, I recommend using NV12 for color format. It is the best, in my opinion. And for color space, I max it out to 709, and instead of using partial color range, I have full color range. Now let's go down here a little bit and let's talk about some things here. For streaming, my bind to IP, you can bind an IP to whatever your stream PC IP is. In the case here, this is my stream PC's IP. You can do that if you want, or you can just leave it default. Either or. But I do recommend, especially those that are pushing the limit on their upload with the bit rate. Like me, sometimes my upload speed drops to around 8, and this will save your butt. Okay, so dynamically change bit rate to manage congestion, okay, or dynamic bit rate. So this will throttle your bit rate up and down based on what your feed is to the stream server. this will keep you from dropping frames, which drop frames, you know, means that your viewer on the other end is now watching a frozen video for however long those drop frames are. And sometimes it can get pretty extreme. This will throttle the bit rate down so that you maintain a smooth video, but you lose video quality. But I think that's a great compromise, considering that now you can at least tell your viewers, hey, I'm having a little issue with the internet or this Twitch server or whatever, and the bit rate's a little unstable right now. So, you know, it only takes a second or two usually, and that's your bit rate comes back, your upload speeds come back, and you're able to get back to a normal thing. But this is key. I like it a lot, and it does definitely keep you from dropping frames. Here, I also enable network optimizations. I do not enable TCP pacing. This is for RTMP outputs, but I do recommend definitely checking these two. Also, this is something that's a recent add. For browser sources, a lot of people are running browser sources for like alerts from Streamlabs or Stream Elements, even building their overlays and using a single browser source for that, which is actually what I'm showing you here. This is actually a browser source that I've gone in and built all the elements online, and then I send a single browser source feed over to my OBS. So here, if you want to use hardware acceleration to process your browser sources, you can do so, and I highly recommend it because it does take a lot of load off your CPU when it's trying to run these browser sources, especially if you have 3 or 4 of them in one scene, or in some cases people have a ton of them. So yeah, definitely recommend you doing that. Okay. Other than that, for stream settings, that's really it. You know, the main meat and potatoes of it is under output, under streaming here in video, and then under your advanced. Audio is not such a big deal. You really don't use a ton of bandwidth unless you have a ton of channels that you're sending audio. But I like mine set to 48 kilohertz. You know, here I've got these disabled, but this is all personal preference. If you want to use the default built-in channels, you can do so. You can assign specific things to them, which is pretty nice. But other than that, I mean, you know, there's really not a ton to think about. The only thing is I would say here under output is that you need to think about your bit rate here. Most recommend 160 for live streaming. I think Facebook requires 128. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, I'll have links in the description for stream requirements for each of these stream services down below, so that you could set that up specifically so that you don't get in trouble, end up getting kicked or banned or whatever they do to people who try to break rules. Okay. Other than that, that is really it. I do appreciate everybody coming out and watching the video. I hope this helps you out. If you got any questions, please use my Discord, use my Twitter @frugal_streamer. All my social media links are down below in the description. Check me out there. I love to help you out. And if you really get in a bind and you want some one-on-one, I do offer a paid service where I can go in and remote into your PC, and then I can set your stream up for you, including dual PC setups using Voicemeeter if that's something you want to pursue. Okay. But in any case, thank you for watching this video. Other than that, be safe out there. Please, please don't risk going out there and getting yourself sick if you don't need to. Okay. But I appreciate you. I appreciate your supporting the channel. And that's all I got to say, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your week and weekend. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.